Yeah, and I'll be the perfect one for you.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the New Now. This is actually a program that I really just thought it was a good idea for people just to have conversations with friends, family, clients, and just knowing what people are doing in other parts of the country. So while I'm doing this, I reached out to actually an old high school friend that we reconnected with just a week ago, named Tam Dang. We both grew up in Olympia, Washington, and
Yeah,
Tam right now is working for Comcast,
yeah.
wonderful husband, and is a father of two, correct?
Father one.
Oh, father of one, sorry.
Two, I guess if you count the pet. So
Well, that's what I'm counting. So yeah,
yes.
so really, I just want to have a conversation. And Tam and I actually probably about a week ago met with an old friend, a guy named Darren Falter, another guy I went to grade school with and high school, played basketball with. And we reached out to Tam on a whim and
Yeah.
said, hey, we're going to go ride bikes on e-bikes. And
Yes.
Tam loves to ride his bike with fat tires, and he just jumped in.
Yes.
So, Tam, again, just wanting to have a conversation. People will join on, maybe ask questions and stuff, but just let me know how, again, not talk about politics or negativity, but how are things happening for you? What's different in your world? Any silver lining? How are you pivoting?
Well, first of all, Tom, thanks for putting all this together, and reaching out to us. One thing really cool about Tom is that he reached out to people in different spectrums, right? Whether they're involved in sports or not, or whether they're just very into a certain hobby that they do, regular working folks as well. So I like the platform that he's bringing on. So Tom, thank you for doing that. It's
Thank you.
always fun. Um, you know, we definitely live in a different world nowadays. For many years, we kind of operated in our various silos and things are going well. But obviously, this presents a challenge, right? And often enough, I would say I wouldn't be able to have this kind of insight in my 20s or 30s. But as we get older, there's something that happens between, I would say, intelligence and wisdom, right? And I find that over the years, as we get older, wisdom actually starts to kind of grow, and we start to kind of see things in deeper details from that standpoint. And so to answer your question, Tom, is that the changes that has been going on, definitely a lot of it's new to us, but it also gives us a great opportunity to kind of reassess what we need to do as human beings from that standpoint. And so I like the fact that you reached out because it allows us to connect with different people. And I would say the most important thing right now is just being people and think about what is it that one can do, right, to help others as well. So for example, you reaching out to me one day, say, hey, let's get together, go riding. And at that moment, I didn't tell you this, but I realized I'm really busy, right? But I also said to myself, when will we have another opportunity to get together, right? And so I just shoved everything aside and said, Tom, I'll see you in 1 hour.
That was so awesome. We were able to get together and ride and catch up. And heck, I don't think the three of us have seen each other in 25 years.
Yes, and so that's just an example of, hey, seize the moment, it's the opportunity, and just do it. And I'll tell you what, I don't even regret that for 1 nanosecond that we got together from that standpoint.
I do feel a little bad that Aaron and I had e-bikes and you were pedaling up that big hill in Ballard, but I know you were up for the task.
Yes, it was okay. But a little bit about myself, just kind of give a little background, is there's two sides of me. One side is I'm heavily involved in training, especially in corporate training in the areas of technology and sales. So a lot of times when an organization asks for certain trainings, one of the things I do is I'll map things out, and I'll have like a board that I'll map out each day and talk about what the curriculum looks like, and develop some of the content and what the activities look like.
Are you facilitating too, or are you just putting together the content?
A little bit of both content, but I would say for a lot of times it's facilitating as well in this virtual environment. So why this is kind of comfortable to me, because nowadays the virtual environment is at least 80% of what we do now from that standpoint. And then the other part of me that I do is I'm a heavily investor, specifically on the real estate side as well. So those are the two things that I kind of takes my bandwidth from that component, okay? But I also realize as I get older and wisdom comes into play, I find myself knowing and thinking and believing that we need to be available for others. We need to be able to share. And I believe in the law of the universe is that for every one person you help, there is, it kind of boomerangs and comes back. And so in a way, if there's a selfish reason in all this is the more you give, the more you get back from that standpoint.
No,
And
that's
so,
great. That's great. I totally believe in that. Living out of gratitude instead of living out of fear and anxiety. It's one of those
yes,
things. And one of the things that I do, kind of like you, I have a corporate background in training and development. But over the last 10, 15 years, I've moved to one-on-one coaching and also business strategies.
yes,
And one of the things I always talk about is you want to deal with anxiety or stress or limit them, focus on other people. The biggest
right,
thing I think people have to do now to get through to the next side or even the next day, it's one, reach out and be vulnerable. Let people know if you're hurting, if you need something, because if you keep it inside, it's toxin that will eat you up. So you really need
right,
to just open up and be vulnerable. And number
right,
two, it's swallow your ego. Do whatever you have to get through. And some of these things might not be pretty, but just
yeah,
like you, I have two sides of kind of what I do. I do training, one-on-one training and corporate training. I also speak and I'm an author, but I
yes,
also own restaurants. And as we know, the restaurant world is really topsy-turvy. And we've been lucky enough, knock on wood, to keep our doors open and pivot quickly. And I think the people who are most nimble have the chance to survive and work
right,
every day to move forward. But I'm grateful that we are able to keep some employees. We've had to lay some employees off, but keep some employees. We have a great community. We have a great following. We have a great staff. And we've been able to survive this. But look for the solution instead of the problem. I could play the victim. I could say everything else. But you know what? I'm one of many. No one
yeah,
wants to hear it, and I don't want to play it. So
yes,
it's kind of one of those things that you have to look forward and look for the silver lining to do whatever. So for me, the great thing is, like you, I love to work with people and have relationships.
right.
And this is a great way of keeping in touch with people.
Right,
So
right. I remember that day when we were literally about a mile away from the restaurant, and you got a phone call from a friend that, hey, you know, I just got laid off, and I was kind of thinking about that, and you were really just focusing on how that person felt. I remember that, and even when we showed up at the restaurant, right, you were so inclined of, hey, how do I protect my employees? You know, how do I take care of them? And and I know that as a business owner, you have a million things in your head. How do I stay afloat? Where's my revenue going to come in? You have all this going on in your head, but you took all of that and just really focus on the people, the employees, taking care of people. And so that's very admirable. So you're not just lip talking. That's really,
well,
I'm
well,
telling
I
you,
thank you
that's what
for
he was thinking.
I thank you for that. And one thing I do want people to realize is I know during this time, some people are getting paid and some people aren't, and some people are getting relief. I want to make myself available for, if you can't afford something, I'll reduce my rates by 50%. But if you're not making any money and you're still in a bad mental space, please reach out to me. I will help however I can and do whatever I can. So there are some people, some old clients have reached out to me and just want to talk and saying, what can I do to pivot? I've been so lucky, blessed, and fortunate because I have two incredible business partners, one in Tacoma and one in Ballard. And so we get to talk. And a lot of people by themselves, they're just thinking of all these problems by themselves and they don't have someone to discuss it with. So what I'd like to do is probably open up maybe a mastermind or maybe for 7 or 8 people to get together, business owners, single entrepreneurs or single small business owners, just to talk and saying, hey, vent to us. We're all in this boat together to talk, because I think what's happening are people who are in businesses by themselves, mom and pop or small businesses, they're the ones that are spiraling real quick because they don't have people to ping pong. Maybe I'm in a good mood and my partner's not, and I can help them, and vice versa. And I think
Right,
that's super important. Families,
right,
community, partners, everything,
right.
stay together as much as possible.
Right. What's kind of interesting over the course of just, you know, being an adult and running a business and having the mindset of a business owner, I reflect back and I think about, first of all, believe it or not, but the number one thing about doing business is relationship. You know, yes, you got to have a profitable business, but believe it or not, your profitability It's also dependent on the relationships that you have with other business owners, your vendors, and so forth as well. But here's the point I really want to make, and this, once again, this falls into the category of wisdom, is that I realized that some of the best relationships that I built over the years came about when things weren't going well. In other words, I remember somebody step up and giving me a hand, or giving me an insight, or being there for me. So in a way, when things don't go well, like our world nowadays, when you are there for people, that's actually a great opportunity to solidify some of those great relationships. And those are things I remember. And I'm gonna tell you this right now, great things happen. It's not because of individuals, but because of partnerships, relationships, people help you along the way. I think about like Microsoft, Paul Allen, Bill Gates, Microsoft would not be, and I only bring that because, we live in, Microsoft is our backyard, right? But if you think about it, it's kind of like Paul Allen had the dream,
actually,
the
I'll
vision.
stop everyone. Just for people who don't know, we're both in Seattle, Washington right now.
Yeah.
So for people who know where we live or where we grew up, great. But for the people who are listening, we are in Seattle, Washington, kind of the epicenter of this situation right now. But just to give a background. So.
Yeah, excellent. But you think about Microsoft, right? Microsoft succeed wasn't just because of Bill Gates, but also because Paul Allen. Paul Allen really had the idea and vision. Bill Gates, I would say he's the one that kind of made it as a business case or a business model from that standpoint, right? And so you kind of need the two. So in a way, even though we're talking about the theme of getting people together, making yourself available, being there for people, supporting each other, in a way, the same message is, hey, as a collective whole, that's where the synergy takes in place. And that's where the relationship and the bonding takes place altogether.
So I think one of the things that, like you said, during times like this or during challenge, there are opportunities out there. Nobody wants to go through a pandemic. No one wanted to go through 9/11 or the financial housing crash in 2008-10. But what happens is a lot of us don't like to change. But what it does, it makes us change and it makes us uncomfortable. And the only way you're truly going to learn is how to deal with being uncomfortable. We all dated for the first time. Nobody was great at it. We're all morons, but we were uncomfortable until we got better at it. Learning a language, riding a bike, it doesn't matter. You're going to be uncomfortable the first couple of times because it's not natural. But over time, it can help. So you need to put your eye on the prize and figure out what you need to do to get there. And for people to reach out and say, hey, I don't know how to do this. Tam, can you help me out with this?
Exactly. I actually, personal story, I got into the real estate investment world, not because of money. I'll tell you that right now. I got into the real estate investment world because I was scared. Fear actually got me to there. I never told you the story, Tom, but I'll tell you just a very 1-minute story.
And I won't tell anybody except our website.
Okay, exactly, right? What was interesting is, in our 20s, we kind of had this very rapid growth. We're learning, we're evolving, we're, moving and all that stuff, right? But I remember in my late 20s, I was laid off for my first time in my career.
Okay.
And I think this is around like the dot-com bubble and so forth as well, right?
Okay.
And I remember how I felt that day. Scared, nervous. This is all new to me. So in a way, it kind of reminds me of what's going on.
Child at this time?
I was married at the time as well. Okay. But very newly married. Okay. But this is what happened. I felt the fear. Like many people are fearing right now, right? And I said to myself, I'm never going to put myself in this situation again. Yeah. So it started my thought of what is it that I need to do to ensure or take care of the fear from that standpoint. And so kind of going back to your point is because when things don't happen well, it shakes our complacency. And at that point, it makes us do something that we never have thought about or delayed. And so for me, being laid off one time in the dot-com days was a fear. And that fear caused me to look into real estate investment as an example.
And that's a great thing to bring up, because no matter who we are, it doesn't matter if you seem to be on top of the world or not. You're married, you have a lot of kids, you're single, it doesn't matter. We all have fears. Let's just get that out of the way. We all have fears. Some people have fear of failure, like you said. Some people have a fear of excellence, of saying, I'm going to be a phony. Some people have fears of different pieces and they're not good enough. They have fears of different pieces. So I don't want anyone to think nobody has fears. The difference that I've met between successful people and maybe people who aren't as quite successful is they still have fear, but they move forward anyway.
Yes.
Compared to other people who have fear, and it kind of puts them in a place of, I can't fail if I don't try. Well, if you don't try, you're never going to get forward. So
Yes.
for all the people who are married to their high school sweethearts, I think that's the coolest thing in the world. But a lot of times, if you married your high school sweetheart, you might have missed out on some other great relationships or great jobs or traveling the world. And I'm not saying traveling the world or marrying or dating a lot of people are the answer, but I'm saying if you want something different than you have today, sometimes you're going to have to look fear in the eye and saying, I see you, and try to walk past it.
Yeah. I think fear is simply part of the process. Now, for someone who may see me, I'll just use that example, okay? Tam got it dialed in. He has his process down. Everything is perfect, right? Okay. But I want to tell you the truth is, every day I have fear. I have doubt. I have anxiety. I feel good. I feel bad. All of that comes into play. But if you know where you're going, you just tell yourself, these are the emotions and feelings that I expect along the way. People think that growth is always like this, right? But I'll tell you, the truth of the matter is this: up, down, like this. You will
up, down, backwards. Up,
exactly,
down,
exactly.
Backwards.
As long as you're treading this way, but just know fear is just part of the process, right? And for some people,
and I think that challenge or failure could be too sometimes, because I think the biggest growth I've ever had was when I lost it all. And I'm not saying to do that, but in real estate or other business opportunities. Now, I definitely don't want to do that again, but it taught me different things, to diversify, to pre-educate myself, how to finance things. So you learn because you have to, or you just give up and you're basically in quicksand.
Right. So kind of thinking about, so going back to the theme of, helping the community, how do we do this? One thing I want people to know is at one point, I always think that those who are good at what they do, or sometimes we've envisioned them as a potential of a mentor, for example, but we become hesitant approaching them because, they're probably busy, this or that or whatnot, okay? Here's what I'm saying to the group, is that if any one of us speaks to you, right, feel free to reach out. Because in a way, we actually appreciate, every day we look for opportunities to help somebody. Like today, I helped somebody an older person drive to an auto parts store, so that way they get a new car battery, because their car's been sitting and it can't start. But little things, it brings the humanity back to us, okay? And I'm telling you this right now, anybody who is successful, they're always going to be busy. So that's a commonality. There's a saying, when you want things to get done, you don't ask the person who has time. You actually ask the person who's busy, because the person who's busy is always busy trying to get things done, right? And so what I'm saying is, this platform that Tom is starting, use it as a resource, as a community. And if there's anybody that's trying to figure something out, right, feel free to reach anyone, right? And we will do our best, or Tom will do his best, to kind of connect people and to answer questions. He may not have the answers, but he may know somebody.
So most of these I will be doing on Facebook Live, but today we just recorded, so you're not going to be able to ask questions. But I will definitely have my number, and if you need to reach out, great with networking or just understanding. I'm really big into goal setting. I wrote a book on goal setting, but the thought is how to start and where to figure out, knowing that you're going to have some kind of hiccups, but don't let them stop you. I mean, the biggest thing that I could say is, if you can learn, and this is unnatural, but to run towards the fire, run towards your fear instead of running away from it, I think you'll be more successful. I'm not going to lie to you. I have skin knees. Most everyone I know has skin knees that are successful. But the deal is, you have to go through that to get to the other side. So right now, we're all dealing with this pandemic. Some people are in better off shape than others, but everyone's feeling it. It doesn't matter if you are getting paid right now, the price of your house, your portfolio might be done. Some people don't have a portfolio. Some people I know, I've talked to college students. They basically, I'm going to have a college student, Luke Lovelady, on in the next couple of days. He plays basketball, college basketball. His season has been canceled. They're losing 7 seniors that don't have a chance to play for their tournament. They don't have a chance to graduate, walk. There are people, that are missing a lot of things. Ed McCullough, who we both know, we went to high school with, his son is a senior and is a great track star and wants to try to get a scholarship, but he can't run during the season, so no one's seeing film on him. So it's like, what's his opportunities are? So there are very young people, there are very old people. What I want people to see is not everyone's going to see themselves in me, because not everyone is an older white gentleman. But I'd like to get people of different genders, different ages, different ethnicities, and people in the corporate world, people in the private sector. So maybe you can understand what's going on there. And maybe if you don't plumb onto me, maybe it would be Tam or some other people. Pooja just reached out to me, and Pooja works in the health field.
Oh, she's great.
Pooja is a fantastic person. She was actually a valedictorian in our class, but she is a fantastic person, works down in Arizona. And again, knowing people from different places. I've talked to some people in Asia, in Germany, in China that I would like to have, and saying, hey, what's life like for you in your part of the country? Right. So Tam, I think one of the things I'd love to ask is, people who don't know, you work for Comcast, correct, right now?
Yes, sure.
So what's going on with your company? What's the outlook? Just so people understand, because everyone I talk with, I want to understand what their new now is like today, because everyone's in a different boat. But for people like yourself in corporate America, what is it like?
Well, I tell you right now, it's really being there for our customers from that standpoint. So, as you know, broadband internet is such an important thing right now to be able for people to do so many things, right? A lot of things that happens over the internet. So in a way, you notice that number one priority is our frontline people, making sure that internet's working, broadband's there. We actually scale the network so that way it has the capacity to handle the traffic. So that's, I would say, number one.
Okay.
The whole billing and collections, that kind of stuff, it's pretty much thrown out for now. We just want to make sure we all make it through. In a way, it's almost like an induced coma where the government has forced everything to shut down. So when you see a high spike in unemployment, it's because of that induced coma. It's not because of the economy. But anyways, going back to your point, Tom, we want to make sure that the network is up running for people. We have things such as internet essentials for low income people or free internet from that standpoint as well. Business owners like yourself, we're not going to cut your service from that standpoint. A lot of our leadership team are not taking paychecks. So that's going back as well. So we're doing everything to keep the business up and running, because we believe that, in time, and I don't want to sound like a corporate person, but in time, things will take care of itself. Like I remember, every struggle we went through, it works itself out. And then when we look back on it, we're fine. No one's going to jail, from that standpoint. There will always be food on the table from that. If you think about what's the worst case scenario and just accept it, it ain't all that bad. And just know that things will return to normal. And so if you think long-term from that standpoint, it's okay. We're all in this together,
And I think one of the biggest things that I can say about this firsthand, owning restaurants and everything else, number one thing to do is call all your vendors or call all your utilities and talk to them. A lot of places for utilities, car payments, house payments, they will push it off 6 months, or not 6 months, probably 3 months, 4 months, but just have that communication with them. They understand, but look the person you're dealing with eye to eye. Be a stand-up individual and saying, hey, this is going on. No one's judging you. They just want to have communication. So I think the most effective thing right now is just to communicate. Communicate with your vendors, communicate with your utilities, communicate with your house lenders or your mortgage lenders, and really just be open and honest.
Right.
Because we are going through this together, but people just need to say what's going on.
Exactly. I do want to make a plug though, for all the folks, that ever complain, hey, I wish that I was going through the 2008, 2012 housing market because it allowed me an opportunity to invest and so forth. You know, in other words, the cost of the asset has gone down, for example. Well, very much similar to like Warren Buffett or, you know, or investor, for example. I mean, obviously things like this happen. It's not good, but there's also opportunities as well. You will see what you want to see.
Yeah.
So if you are a person who says, hey, this pandemic is allowing a certain amount of opportunities,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a time for your opportunity. So I want to kind of load balance, hey, there's important things that we need to take care of itself. But for those folks that are okay, or for the last 10 years are trying to time when to get back into the market,
Yeah.
well, here's your time as well. And so every situation will have its bad, but also it's good. It depends on what you want to see from that standpoint.
And I think one of the biggest things that I try to talk to my clients, my friends, family, and even myself sometimes, because there are days where I get up and I'm real tired. We all are. But I think it's your mindset. You will prove to yourself whatever you say
Yes.
is correct. And this is where I tell people, watch out for your verbiage. If you think you can't, you won't, you shouldn't, you will do everything you can to self-sabotage yourself to prove yourself right because you want to be right. If you say, I can, I will, and I'm going to, you again will prove yourself right. And you will not worry about hearing no or skinning your knee. You will do whatever it takes to get there. So I'm not trying to blow smoke up people's butts, but I'm saying watch your verbiage and think of things of what you want to do instead of things you don't want to do, because again, you will be right, whatever it is you say, whatever you think and say.
It's kind of interesting. You know, your verbiage is important. Your mindset, you know, it's for me, 80% of things is around mindset. The success that you want, 80% of it is up here. It's mindset. It's kind of interesting. People will see what they want to see. Like, for example, I'll just use an example. You know, if you're ever interested in like a certain vehicle, for example, and you become obsessed with that vehicle, suddenly you start seeing that vehicles on the freeways, in the parking lots, in the malls, right? Because you're conscious of that. That's what you want. You're trying to pursue that, right? And so you will see what you want to see. And so what I'm saying is, from a personal growth or whatever development, if you have the mindset, this is what you want, right? Those opportunities and those things will start appearing because you're looking for it, you know? So very important mindset.
So good. I don't want to make this an advertisement of rah, rah. This is going to be fun. But I think it's good because sometimes, you know, everyone needs a kick in the butt, a slap in the back, and just saying, or a hand up of just saying that. So I'm glad we're able to do that opportunity. For people who are not like us or in business, I just want to give everyone an opportunity to maybe see something in you or myself while we have this conversation. So tell us a little about your child, their age, and what they're doing, what their life is like now, because we're thinking about it from our own standpoint. What are the children seeing from, and how are you experiencing it?
So obviously I'm Asian, right? And I have a daughter that's 16 years old, and I expect her to grow up to be either a doctor or a lawyer. No, just joking. No, here's the real deal, okay? I want my children to be the person that they want to be, okay? If she wants to go college, awesome. If she doesn't want to go college, that's perfectly fine as well, okay? Because I know that it's so important that people are motivated and doing things that they're passionate about, if that makes sense. They don't need to do everything well, but the one or two things that they do, they should do really well. I'll give an example. If somebody who was okay with something, and if you try to have them do something and let's say they're not good at something, you can get them to an okay level, right? With effort and practice, right? What I'm more interested in telling my daughter is what you are okay with and become great. You see the difference there? I don't want her to be just okay. I want her to take what's okay and be great. But the point of all of this is I want her to be herself. Formal education, that's cool. on the other hand, we're hiring the best minds that don't have a formal education,
So
right?
Tam, this is a good thing to maybe branch, and you can speak to this. As you said, you have Asian heritage. Maybe let people know about your background stuff, and different cultures um, probably talk with their children differently or have different philosophies, just depending on if we third, fourth generation in America, if we're an immigrant moving here,
Right.
depending on living with our grandparents. So from your cultural background, if
Right.
someone is growing up and maybe had parents like yourself, what
Mm.
is the best way of talking with them, opening
Okay.
up, or understanding what to do?
Okay. I remember, uh, first of all, I was an immigrant, right? So I wasn't born in the United States. I'm Vietnamese as far as my heritage from that standpoint. But when we came over, the first thing I said, or our family, was this. Number one, we were very appreciative of just being in the United States.
And how old
That
were you when you came over?
6 years old.
Okay.
Okay. So number one, we appreciate just being able to be in a place of freedom. Okay. That's number one. Number two, I realized at an early age that whatever I wanted, that I personally wanted, it was strictly up to me.
Okay.
Nobody else. I was responsible for everything that I wanted in life. And so at an early age, I hate to use the word hustle, but I wanted to make sure that, hey, every day counted, and that I need to figure this out,
Okay,
because
hold on.
all up to me.
I'm not embarrassing you because this is a story that I have great respect for you. And like you said, you hustled. And one of the things that people might not know about Tam, who know him, and obviously people who don't know him, back in high school, for the people who can remember high school or living it right now, everyone wants to be the same. They don't want to stand out. They want to be popular. They want to be liked. They want to have an easy life. But Tam was flipping burgers at McDonald's, which
Yeah.
I thought was so cool. Now, most people think, oh, that's not cool or that's this. But Tam, tell them how you got a prom date out.
Oh, so this is a shout out to my prom date, Alice. Okay, but anyhow, we were flipping burgers, and we did like the weekend shift, because weekdays we had homework, right? But we did the weekend shift, and I remember I didn't have a prom date, and so Alice was next to me, so we were flipping burgers, and I go, Alice. Yeah, I always thought Alice was really cute,
Yeah.
but I never thought more of that. But anyhow, I go, Alice, do you have a prom date? She goes, no. And so I said, would you like to go to prom with me? So that's one of these kind of stories as childhood we just never forget. And I remember one time, how there was a friend invite on Facebook.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not quite sure whether it's legitimate or not. So I asked her the question, what is something that you remember from me in high school? And she said, you asked me to prom while we were flipping burgers. And that was that gave me just the best laugh altogether. So these are the memories I.
So my question to you is, where'd you go to dinner for prom? McDonald's or somewhere else?
Oh, it was in Olympia, that's for sure. Oh my God, I totally forgot. I totally
It was
forgot.
the fanciest place I think in Olympia was Falls Terrace back then.
Falls Terrace,
Yeah.
perhaps. Perhaps.
If you went to Tacoma, a lot of people went to Stanley Seaford, TI Shenanigans, things of that
Exactly.
nature. But there was
Yes.
always places that people went. So no, I just thought that was a great story because the one thing that you've always shown myself and other people, and again, we haven't communicated all the time, but just seeing you and social media is great for that. So you might not be connected, but you still are connected. The one thing I see about you is you're authentic in showing your life. Yes, you have great successes, but you also show other pieces, and you've always hustled. You weren't born into this. Your parents didn't give this to you. You earned it. And I think one of the things that I want to make sure the next generation sees is, you know what? Most people out there, we weren't given to. And I know there are quote helicopter parents or parents they call bulldozer parents because they want to do everything for their kids.
Right.
Let your kids make a mistake at 14, 16, because if not, you're going to let them first see the world at 26, 28, and they're really going to be behind the eight ball. So it's one of those things that I admired you a long time, because you not swallowed your ego, because you didn't have to swallow your ego, but you did what you had to do to get through to the next bet. And you always saw things as, this is just a stepping stone. This doesn't define me. This isn't who I am. You know what? And I've had jobs where I worked with Mike Peoples. We were working at landscaping. I worked at Coco's. I worked at Vips. You know, I worked at the tuck shop, and they were stepping stones, but you could still enjoy it and have
I remember
fun.
the tuck shop,
Yeah.
wearing the tuxes to school.
Yeah.
Handsome you were.
Well, I did that. I'll be honest with you. I did that. And this is a great thing, a great example about perseverance. So when we were a senior back in the day, and we're saying way back in the day,
Yes,
but what you did was, the week before, the 2 weeks before homecoming or prom or Tolo, anything that you'd wear to dress up for a tux, certain guys would wear tuxedos. And I always thought, hey, that's kind of cool. And then I saw the price of a tuxedo, and I was like, $80, $90, $100. I don't know how to do that. So I literally walked into the tuck shop probably a month and a half, 6 weeks before, the school year. And I said, hey, I'd be very interested in wearing tuxedos, and this is who I am, and this is what I do. Would you please think of me? And they're like, okay. And what I did is I came in every single week, and I asked them over and over again. And finally, the first week of school, they said, you know what, you could be one of our reps. And the reason I like you is because you come in every day, you show me perseverance, and you hustle. And at the end of the day, I wore tuxedo, I think before prom, before homecoming, maybe 3 times, but I got my tux for free. And again, that's huge when you don't have that $100. And God, to say, what was our minimum wage back there? Like $3.35.
$3.35. And the cost of your $80 tuxedo was my average paycheck.
Oh, yeah. So,
I do want to mention this because we, as individuals, like Tom and myself, we actually always scouting for talent. We look for people that have motivation. And this kind of reminds me a little story. I'll be quick with this, but the McDonald's in West Olympia was owned by Roger Berryman. He was just a nice man, and he only had like 1 child, right? But I remember him so vividly, and I used to do the paper route. The paper route that I took away from Brian Leach. Brian Leach, just to let you know, okay? But anyhow.
And how old were you? I had a paper route in 4th and 5th.
Yeah, I think it was like 14 or so. And Roger, the owner, he was always there on the weekends, just hanging out at the store, right? And I remember on Sunday, he always would buy me a big breakfast, the McDonald's big breakfast. And this is what he says. He goes, Tam, when you turn 16, you come and work for me, okay? I'll give you a job. And then when you go to college, and you do like accounting, whatever it is, you come and do my books, Remember, this is communication from somebody. I'm getting a little goosebumps just thinking about it, because it's so, this is when I was 14, 15 years old, right? But I remember those words, and it meant so much to me. What I'm telling you guys is that Tom and I, we want to help people. And we think about how these little words or things that we can do to impact somebody, right? Like Roger did back in the day, just saying those words, just a bit very comforting, And so that's what inspires us, and we want to connect, and we want to give back.
I love watching people grow. One of my journeys in life was when I graduated college. I started working at Dale Carnegie, and it was a 12-week program where you coached, a group of people. And now I started doing this at 23, and I was very young looking. I was probably 24 to 25, but I was still younger looking at that time.
Still young looking.
and most people in that class were in their mid to late 50s. And a lot of them worked at Boeing. And what it was for an opportunity for first-time managers or people managers to learn how to speak and lead teams. And I remember I had a group of about 6 people. And I will just say his first name, but I had a guy named Chuck who I coached. And Chuck was about 56 years old, gray hair, older looking gentleman, executive at Boeing. And I kept on having these little thoughts in my head. Who am I at 24, 25 years old to talk to this guy about these things? But every single week I called him, I checked in, we went over a couple assignments during the week through class. In the 6th or 7th week, I think maybe a little respect, maybe a little trust, maybe a little openness. But I remember him came to me and talked to me, and we kind of had a moment in the hallway, and I looked in his eye and he said, Tom, when I grew up, the thing that happened was my parents told me kids should be seen, not heard. And you could see almost the sorrow. And I was like, Chuck, what's going on? He's like, I'm lonely at work. I've worked there with my company for 25 years. I've never been asked to a birthday party, happy hour, anything. Right. But I try to keep myself down. And I remember, empathizing with him, but talking to him and saying, hey, maybe talk to other people and saying, hey, I'd love to go out the next time, or put yourself out there. Or maybe you say happy birthday to someone and you reach out and be more a little gregarious or a little more open to, receiving compliments. And he did that. And I remember him coming in 3 weeks later and he teared. And again, I'm 24, 25, and he's like 55, grizzled, veteran. And he started tearing. He's like, I got asked to a birthday party. And you could see in his face, he said when he first heard this from his parents, he was 9 years old. And you almost could see a 9-year-old kind of blossoming from there. And that was kind of the trajectory that made me happy to say, you know what? I love helping people, watch people grow. Right. I got into it because I'm the youngest of 4. My brothers and sisters were fantastic role models for me. They kind of taught me what I should do, what I shouldn't do. There was a little age gap, but I kind of always had someone to talk to and see. And my mom was a nurse, my sister's a counselor. So our family was always into nurturing. But for myself, I thought, okay, what do I want to do? And when I got into coaching and I saw people grow, again, got you the goosebumps and saying, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to watch people grow. And it doesn't matter if it's that 55-year-old. I've worked with college students, high school students, entrepreneurs, or large businesses that are million and billion-dollar companies. I just like to watch people grow and get out of their own way.
Yes. And I see that even grassroots, the day we were biking and when all hell was breaking around you, you were just worried about those employees and individuals. So nicely done.
Well, I don't want to take much time. I know we said we'd go about 20 minutes, probably went about 45, but I thank you so much for this. I don't want to, I will post this again. If this was the Facebook Live, we'd obviously have comments. People, when I post this, you could DM me, comment. If you need any help, you want to talk, please feel free. If anyone wants to reach out to Tam, is there a best way to reach out to you, or do you just want me to DM you, or how would you like that?
Yeah, you just search my name. There's only so many Tam Dangs. I'm on Instagram and also on Facebook as well.
Okay. So anything that you're looking forward to in the next week, 2 weeks during this time? Are you doing anything new, fun? Are you pivoting something with your health at home? Anything you're doing different?
I believe this is something that's only going to happen once in our lifetime, maybe twice, but once in a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
Why not take the opportunity and get close to people? Yeah. Right? It may not happen again. I hope it doesn't happen again, but take advantage of the time, get to know people intimately, because once all this is done, we're back to business, man. Yeah. Okay.
Well, good.
In the restaurant, we're back to business too.
I thank you so much. Give me a call and we can go biking again or catch up. But I thank you so much. And this was the first episode, and hopefully there will be a lot more. And during this pandemic, I will definitely make sure there's a couple of them per week. And if you're interested on being a guest where we could just have this conversation like this in front of your friends or other peers, please DM me from there. So thanks so much, Tam.
Yeah, and any walks of life, Tom, because, right, it just adds to it, and there's always things that we can learn.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm talking with kids in college, talking with retirees, different genders, different ethnicities, because, again, they might not see themselves in me, but they might see themselves in you or in Pooja or Luke or some other people that we have on. So,
very good.
Great. Be well. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Cheers.